Hi folks, welcome to Crisco's Corner, unfiltered commentary. And that's your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Welcome back from Fox News. Rural Oregon counties vote to discuss seceding from state to join Greater Idaho. Now, they're not leaving the Union. They're just leaving the state of Oregon. And frankly, I don't blame them. You can see from the map there, you've got Eugene, Salem, Portland. That's all deep, deep blue area. Everything else this way is deep red, and I mean deep red. They have about as much in common as cats and dogs, and they get along about as well. But are the eastern part of the state, where most of the people live, going to let them go? We'll see. We'll see. A deep political divide between urban and rural areas has conservative residents feeling ignored by their state government. I know what that's like. I live in upstate New York. It's might as well be on Mars compared to New York City, yet the exorbitant property taxes, that's probably the number 2 reason why I sold my business recently. Really didn't want to, but I was paying over $500 a month in just local property taxes, state, county, and school. That's not counting any state or federal tax. That's not counting all the fees, the license fees, and all the other BS. That's not counting almost $400 a month for insurance. You're looking at between $1,100 and $1,200 a month just to turn the key. Now, those of you that are in retail business, I had a small convenience store with a bottle redemption center in it. I have to do approximately $200,000-300,000 returns a month just to make the bills. And that's for me, as I'm a sole proprietorship, that's for me basically making $30,000 a year. That's not much money for working 70 hours a week. Now you know why I sold. Plus I'm 64. But I digress. They're in the same exact boat. That's why I say that. Let's scroll up here. A group called Move Oregon's Border is leading an initiative to have Oregon's rural counties secede from the rest of the state and join Idaho. Mark Carter, 72, a retired plant nursery worker and lifelong Oregonian, has been leading the effort for almost 2 years. He said he and many others are eager to get out from underneath the chokehold of northwestern Oregon. Well, the rest of the state is run like Portland, so I could want to get the hell out too. We've watched the shift take place in Oregon politics, where the primary concern of the legislature is Northwest Oregon. Yeah, sounds familiar. Primary concern of New York City is New York City. The other 90% of the landmass, which is upstate New York, they could care less about. That's where 78% of the state's population is based. They tend to forget that every law that you pass in the state affects us out in the rural economies too. Now, I've seen pictures. I've never been to the state of Oregon. It's absolutely stunning. It's very similar to upstate New York. Massive, massive trees, parks, wildlife, bears, you name it. It's a beautiful place. I wish to hell we could secede from the city of New York. But the problem is, where would we attach ourselves if we wanted to secede? Where are we going to go? New England? Massachusetts? Forget it. Pennsylvania? Yeah. We'd have to form our own state. I would love to make a deal like I did back in the mid-1800s, early 1800s, when a state was brought into the Union. They were worried about the balance of power, i.e. state senators and Congress people. It was free and slave states. It was crappy, but that was the deal that was made, that when one free state comes in, one slave state comes in. And they held out of that for a long time, kicked the can down the road until, of course, the inauguration of 1860, and we all know what happened there. So what I would do is, if Washington, D.C. wants to become their own state, okay. But the quid pro quo is upstate New York gets to have its own state as well. I think that would be very much in the spirit of earlier compromises, and I think it would work out well. But I digress. The gentleman highlighted a number of benefits that come with being a citizen of Idaho, including lower taxes and generally more freedoms. Idaho is ranked number 3 in regulatory freedom, whereas Oregon is ranked 43. Ha! Jeez, there's actually 7 that are worse, probably California. You know, freedom's a big deal, folks. It really is. Now, we look at the map here. This is Oregon currently, this right here. And this is Idaho. They want to take this portion of Oregon and leave. 3/4 of the population is right here. And they want access to the ocean and hook on to Oregon. And then phase 2, I believe, is Northern California. Now, I doubt Northern California would ever let them go. But I think phase 1 is doable. I really do. So all this here and all this here would be Idaho. It would have access to the ocean. It would have a couple of ports. I think everybody makes out, including the progressives up here in the white area, also known as La La Land. Oregon state politics took a sharp turn left during the past 20 years, something that has not gone unnoticed when more conservative residents in the state rural communities. MacArthur pointed to a recently passed law that made Oregon the first state to decriminalize possession of hard drugs. Now you look and say, well, if you're homeless, if you're a hard drug user, we're not talking about weed here, folks, okay? We're talking about hard drugs. If you're a rioter, if you're an illegal, come to Oregon. We're a sanctuary state and won't get in trouble. That's not the way conservatives feel in Oregon. Of course. Here's the funny part. These progressive states can defy the Constitution and make sanctuary states and cities, i.e., illegal immigrants can go there without fear of arrest from the federal government, who is actually enforcing the Constitution and the laws of the land passed by Congress. But when we have sanctuary Second Amendment cities, i.e., your right to bear arms, to keep and bear arms, for some reason, that's against the law. Portland has seen months of violent protests and riots with little government intervention since the death of George Floyd in May in Minneapolis. That's another can of blank. Idaho is not a sanctuary state at all. They just want to protect their citizens. That's comforting to live in a state like who enforces the laws and now the lawbreakers go free. A measure requiring local officials to meet on the subject of changing the border was on the ballot in 4 counties this past election. It passed in Jefferson and Union counties and was voted down by small margins in Douglas and Wallowa counties. MacArthur's goal, however, is to get the issue as much attention as possible, since the final decision will lie with Oregon and Idaho state legislatures. I'm sure Idaho would have zero problem with it. And be honest with you, folks, that progressive part of Oregon, where 78% of the population lives, if you say no, you're just doing it for spite. You don't like those people. You have nothing in common with them. In fact, many of you hate these people. It used to be in the old days, you just thought the other side was misguided. Now the progressives and Democrats actually believe that conservative people are evil and they hate them. Why would you want to keep somebody around? I mean, you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend that was absolutely miserable and you didn't get along, and they wanted to leave. You could have cared less if they left or not. But you tell them no anyway. You can't do that. It's not fair. MacArthur's goal, however, is to get as much attention as possible since the final decision will allow Oregon and Idaho state legislatures. The group hopes 19 of Oregon's southern and eastern counties will secede and become part of what they call Greater Idaho. If successful, the border change would no longer make Idaho a landlocked state, giving it 2 coastal counties, something MacArthur said would be key selling point for the neighboring state. Move Oregon's border will continue collecting signatures for May 2021 local elections in 11 other counties. And when they go around collecting signatures, I ran as a city councilman. I was a city councilman for 8 years in the early 2000s. There's a certain number of signatures you have to collect to get on the ballot. So when they're going around collecting those, they'll collect the signatures to secede from Oregon and become part of Idaho. I absolutely see no issue with this. Phase 2 is a little more problematic. But phase 1, so Oregon becomes smaller. It's 78% of the population, and I don't want to hear it's too little. If that's the case, then get rid of Rhode Island and Delaware, where our president is from. He's not from Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's really from Delaware. Who I drive through, if you listen to a couple of tunes on your radio or your CD player, you'll pass through the state. It's that little, so I don't want to hear it, that it's too small. The gross domestic product is probably mostly in the Northwest. Let these rural people go. They're not happy with you, and you're not happy with them. Call it an amicable divorce. You had nothing in common anyway. Just let them go. Until the next time, folks, goodbye and good luck.